Whoop. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It's probably been at least 3 years since I've uploaded a video. It's been a hot minute, and honestly, I'm surprised I even remember how to turn on my camera. I'm missing my ring light, but we made it work. Like, this is how long it's been since I made a vlog, but I'm really excited to make this vlog. I made it a priority today because I've had so many questions about how to survive residency and just like anxious oncoming residents that are interns that want to know, what do they need to do in order to be successful as an intern, especially going into surgery. So this is really exciting. I am a rising PGY3 in general surgery. I'm at the University of Miami, Holy Cross General Surgery program. And this video is going to be just the tip of the iceberg on what I think will make you successful as an intern in general, but especially if you're going into surgery, things that I will kind of highlight along the way. So I have a little bit of notes here, but let's dive right into it. First of all, congratulations that you've made it this far. It's super exciting time. So you should be incredibly proud of yourself that you have made it this far, that you got through medical school, that you got through your bachelor's, and that you are sitting where you are today. There are so many people that aspire to be in the seat that you are in, so do not take it for granted. Do not take it lightly. You should be so proud of yourself. Regardless of where you've matched, like, you are going to make the next 3, 5, 7 years of your life, however long your residency is going to be, what you need. Regardless of where you match, you got to make the most of it. It may not be your top choice or your second choice or your top 10, and if it is, that's amazing. But if it's not, just make the most of it. It's going to be a very rewarding but also very trying 3, 5, 7 years, however long your residency is, depending on what specialty you're going into. So just make the most of it. For me, my priority was being close to home, being around my family, my friends, and being around that support system. And so I feel incredibly blessed to be able to be about an hour away from home. I just go down to my parents and then they make me a bunch of delicious food and I come back home. So that's really nice, but just make the most of where you're at. First thing I would recommend as an intern is make things as mindless as you can. So if you are still looking for an apartment, hopefully it's going to be at a place right next to where you work. It doesn't have to be across the street, but ideally no more than 20 minutes. Honestly, the last thing you want to do is sit in painful traffic before or after work. If you need to get to the hospital fast, or if you forgot something in the hospital, you want to make it a quick turnaround trip. And so honestly, I just recommend in your first year living as close to the hospital as possible, just because it makes it super easy for you and maximizes the amount of sleep you're gonna get. So make things as mindless as possible. Prepare your meals, prepare your clothes. If you're wearing scrubs, prepare how you're gonna grab them. And of course, prepare your commute. When you are getting to work, sometimes you don't account for traffic, and that would be the bane of your existence. So just make things as mindless as possible. Plan ahead. Know your schedule. So some people make like a calendar schedule. Some people have a schedule on their phone. Know what time you're starting your day so you can plan accordingly, and know what time you finish your day in theory so you can plan accordingly. So you can fit everything that's not work into your schedule as well. And so basically you want to know like how far you live from the hospital, what time you need to be at the hospital, and what you need to do in order to prepare to have a good day at the hospital. So if rounds are, for example, at 6:45 in the morning, you don't want to be getting at the hospital at 6:45, because chances are you're going to have to be making a list. And when you are starting off in residency, everything takes you extra long. And so you want to be early. You will never regret being early to work, especially as an intern, because things always come up. The computer takes forever to start up. The printer doesn't want to print. Trust me, just get there early. Also, side note, if you have pets, this is your time. This is your time to buy an automatic feeder. This is your time to buy a water filter. And I don't know what you're gonna do about walking your dog, but if you don't have a significant other to walk them, definitely download those apps to walk your pets whenever you have like a long day and whatnot. I have cats, so I just have them go in the litter box. Super convenient, they're a little independent, but this is definitely the time to buy the automatic feeder and the water filter. And if you have that then I would buy the robotic kitty litter box because I haven't had the chance to buy it, but I'm sure it will save you a lot of time. When you're onboarding, they're gonna ask you for your vacation block and your PTO. Definitely take that time to take your vacation and your PTO. If not, you will lose it. Plan your vacation ahead of time because it's gonna sneak up on you and then you'll realize you didn't plan anything and then you'll end up staying in your apartment for your 2-week vacation. So definitely plan that ahead of time. You have something to look forward to and you don't wanna lose that vacation time or your PTO, so utilize it. Things that people don't think about, but trust me, it's valuable. Understand your role and your schedule. As an intern, you're gonna be the person making the list. You're gonna be the person presenting on rounds. You have to know the patients better than anybody on the team. You are the one to get the floor work done. You are the one to change the dressing. And if you can make friends with the nurses, then that's going to be your best friend because they'll be the ones helping you with all these minuscule tasks that in the grand scheme of things shouldn't take a lot of time, but they will interrupt your day-to-day schedule. You want to orient yourself to the service that you're going to be on. So if you're going into general surgery or if you're going into medicine, whatever you're going into, there's going to be different services that you're rotating through, and every service functions differently because it has different attendings, you have different kinds of patients, it has a different flow. Sometimes you're in clinics, sometimes you're more in the operating room, it just depends. So make sure you talk to your seniors and orient yourself to the schedule and how it functions, who your attendings are, what group chats you need to be in order to communicate with your team, what the expectations are. You always want to ask what the expectations are in the beginning of the rotation. So it gives the senior the opportunity to lay down the groundwork of what they expect of you, but also what you expect of them. So that's your opportunity to offer up in the beginning, like what you want to learn, what your priorities are, how you can be the most helpful, how you learn so they know how to help you. Typically, you'll be the one to get sign out from the day before and provide sign out when you are finishing up your shifts. So you always want to make sure you're keeping track of everything that happened throughout the day, all the orders that you need to do, etc. There's always a chain of command. In medicine in general, there's a chain of command, and you want to understand your role in that. I came from a community program where we didn't work with residents, and my first encounter with residents was on my sub-I rotations, and it was like a very big eye-opening experience. But as you progress into residency, the chain of command is such a big thing. At community programs, it's a little bit more fluid where you are not crucified for talking to the attending. But at other institutions, I'm not naming them, at other institutions, you might get crucified for trying to talk to the attending or the chief without going through year 2 and 3 and 4, whatever it is, prior to. So understand the chain of commands and how you function within that. One of the main things you're going to be doing as an intern is rounds. Rounds feel, in some cases on certain services, never ending, but rounds is key. You'll be the one to be presenting on rounds. That will be your responsibility. You should know all the acute events that happened overnight with the patient, why the patient is there, what you're doing for the patient, any changes in their vitals, what their labs look like, any concerns in regards to things going on preoperatively, postoperatively, things that happen intraoperatively that you need to know. And you always want to be mindful of who you're presenting to and gauging how much they know or how little they know about the patient. And that way you can kind of addend the way you present patients to make it more efficient for whoever is listening. You'll always be doing pre-rounds most of the time with patients, with your own team or on your own. So make sure you plan that accordingly, and whatever you learn, and make sure you write it down, because at the end of the day, when you have 20 plus patients, it's hard to kind of differentiate things. So the more you write down, the more it'll be helpful for you. Every time they're gonna give you things in the plan of things you need to order, write it down, because the day moves by fast, and especially as an intern, you will forget things. You will constantly be told things that need to be added to the to-do list, and I promise you, you will forget and you will never regret if you write it down. So make sure you write things down. If you have any like weird pathologies come up or new pathologies come up that you might have, they might not be weird, but it just might be something that you aren't very familiar with, write it down so you can look up and read about it at the end of the day. A lot of times, if you are asked questions on rounds and you don't know the answer, that's the time to write it down so you can read about it, and then the next day they might ask you about it, you'll know more about the topic. Just a little bit of advice. You definitely want to plan ahead. So if you're going to be seeing patients, as an example, if you're going to be going to the operating room and doing, I I don't know, colon cancer resection. So you might want to spend the night before reading about colon cancer resections and understanding like what you need to do at every stage of different colon cancer. You might get asked questions about that, like, do you need neoadjuvant therapy? Does this patient need adjuvant therapy? What kind of therapy would you do? Would you give them any radiation? If it's anal cancer, if it's a cancer in the sigmoid colon, how many of the margins do you take? How many lymph nodes do you need? These are different things that you end up kind of correlating clinically and academically. So the more you can tie things to actual patients, the more you'll be able to remember things. And it'll be easier for you to study in the future because you'll be able to kind of correlate that with a patient that you already had. So make sure you write things down, read a lot, and make those connections on the fly. What else do I have here? Which kind of ties me into Absite. Absite is like a big exam. If you are not a surgical resident, I apologize, but I definitely need to just kind of insert a little bit of information about Absite because it stirs a lot of anxiety for surgery residents. But Absite is the American Board Surgical In-Service Training Exam. And basically it's a exam that you take annually that kind of measures the amount of knowledge that you have as a surgery resident. And in theory, you should learn more every year and you should perform better every year. This past year, they took away percentiles that created the anxiety where you got compared nationwide against your co-residents. They took that away. Now it's just percent correct. Whether you like it or not, it is what it is. But for Absite, my recommendation is to start early, build it into your routine where you're seeing questions every day or reading about a topic every single day. If you are able to download an app, for example, through Score or through TrueLearn or through Absite Quest, where you can do questions on the fly with that recall kind of feature, that would be really beneficial because it's similar to Anki, which was often used in medical school, and you'll be able to kind of build your knowledge on the fly without feeling the pain of sitting down and studying for like 3 hours straight. But definitely try to build it into your routine. Also, on your downtime, you probably won't have a lot of downtime in the beginning at work, but in your downtime at work, I would recommend studying. Or when you get home at the end of the day, number one, you haven't ate. Number two, you're exhausted. Number three, you're still trying to work out. And then four, you have to prepare yourself mentally for the next day. So the absolute last thing you feel like doing is studying. So the more you get done prior to that, the more you'll thank yourself later. Different resources that I used was TrueLearn, Score, and Absite Quest. I am very blessed that my program provides all three of those. So see if your program provides any of those. And if they don't, you can always bring up the benefits of it and they may consider providing it for your program. But highly recommend. And then aside from that, you can supplement your studying with reading textbooks like Cameron, Sabiston, Schwartz, whatever your cup of tea is. Go for it. And then utilize your protected academic time. Through ACGME, I think there's protected academic time at every institution. And basically it's where you are free of any clinical work or clinical responsibilities and you are able to utilize the academic time aside from academic presentations to study. So in my program, every Thursday from 8 to 12, in theory, we have protected academic time where somebody gives like a presentation on a topic, and then sometimes we do hands-on things, and then the rest of the time we have free to do whatever we desire with it. Especially during Absite season, that's my opportunity to do question blocks, and so I highly recommend you utilize that time to study. I got a lot of questions about research, so I'll kind of use this time to talk about that as well. I think as a surgery resident, doing research is very challenging if it's not built into your program. I find that that's been the most challenging thing in my particular program. My program is affiliated with an institution, but it's not on the actual main campus, and it's very community-based. So a lot of the attendings that I work with most of the time at my program are surgeons in the community that aren't really involved with academics anymore. And so a lot of my academic work or my research has been purely like me pushing it on my own or working with other residents that are more like at other academic institutions that are more involved with research. So the easiest thing that you can do as a surgery resident is produce case reports. So if you ever have like an interesting case, whether operative or non-operative, that you took care of, take pictures, utilize the pathology and build that case report. When in doubt, you can always look on the internet and see how many articles have been written about this specific pathology and see if it's rare. If it's rare, it's more likely to get published. So you can look at presenting it at a conference, and you can look at writing it up into a manuscript. Other things that you can do to be involved academically are going to conferences and joining like academic committees for different organizations, like national or regional organizations for different specialties. So if you're interested in going into colorectal, you might want to join the American Society of Colorectal Surgeons. If you're interested in joining plastics, you can join the American Society of Plastic Surgeons. If you're interested in going into trauma, then you would join an organization that is trauma-based. But there's also organizations that aren't specialty specific that you can still be involved in. So for example, I'm involved with the Latino Surgical Society. I'm also involved with the Association of Women Surgeons. And so these aren't necessarily specialty specific, but you're still able to connect with other surgeons that have, or other physicians that have interests similar to yours. So in the case of Latino Surgical Society, it's a bunch of Latino and Hispanic physicians, and for women surgeons, of course, it's a lot of women surgeons. But that's another great way to find mentors, get involved academically, and kind of network nationwide, especially coming from a community program. When it comes to applying to fellowships, you're going to need letters from people that are well known in the academic space, and it's a little difficult to get those kinds of letters when you're coming from a more community-based program. So I'm going to take this time to talk a little bit about things that people don't really think about but make such a big difference. Being early is one of them. I remember when I was in medical school, my dean would always say, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. And honestly, that has really stuck with me. I'm always making a point to be early when I'm coming to work. It gives me enough time to pre-round on my patients, chart review, and be ready for whenever my senior is going to round or whenever the attending comes to round. The day that you're like on crunch time is the day that the printer's not working, that the computer's not starting up, that your password needs to be updated. So to avoid all those things, you always want to be early. Know your patients well. If you have to review patients or charts the night before to be mentally prepared to present all these patients the following day, that's your time to do it. You don't want to walk into a service with 15 new patients and not know any of them and then try to use your time to chart check to learn everything about every single patient. So you want to do a little bit of reading ahead of time. You want to communicate well with your team. Definitely utilize the group chats and ask questions. I think most seniors are there to help you, so utilize them as a resource. Be efficient. Again, try to make things as mindless as you can. So set up your epic in a way that it's efficient for you. Be appropriately aggressive. I think a lot of times as an intern, you're just trying to stay afloat, and that's fine. But also you have to remember that you're there to learn how to operate, and you're there to learn how to be a physician. And honestly, there's more to being a doctor than to change dressings or write notes. And so you want to make sure that you're efficient so that you're getting the most out of residency as possible. And especially as a general surgery resident, getting into the OR is probably the hardest as an intern. So if you are very inefficient with writing your notes or doing your floor tasks, you're never going to get into the OR. And the reality is you're never going to learn how to operate that way. And so yes, you will be given time in the future to learn how to operate, but you don't want to be scrambling, as a rising chief and being worried that you don't know how to fly solo when you're going to graduate in the next 6 months. You always want to get your orders in after rounds, then you do your notes. Sometimes, in certain programs, they'll prioritize OR coverage over notes. It just depends. Understand, again, the institution that you're working at and the expectations that are set, but make sure you're getting things done efficiently so you get good OR time. Find a mentor and make a friend. You're going to have a bunch of co-residents, but you definitely want to find that co-resident that you can vent to, that co-resident that will, be there to tell you how to manage the situation when you don't know really how to manage it. You want to find that mentor that might have the same interest in, a future career choice as you. And so you can team up and do papers together, or you can team up and do things together outside of work to decompress, but they will be that person that understands what you're going through but also be that friend that will help you survive residency outside of the hospital. Logging your hours and your cases in bulk is the most painful thing ever, so you want to keep that up to date. And yeah, that's what I'm going to say about that. Anyways, I think I spoke enough, but those are my pearls for surviving residency, at least the tip of the iceberg. I'm sure there's 1,000 more things and 1,000 more hours that I can talk about on how to survive residency, but reality is I can't make this video that long. So if there's anything you want me to talk a little bit more about, we can talk offline, or I can make another video focusing on that. But definitely residency is a challenging journey. They say for medical school, it's like drinking out of a fire hydrant. Yeah, this is like times 15. But it's very rewarding, it's a privilege, and you are exactly where you're supposed to be. You should be very excited. It is very humbling, and it is an incredible and one-of-a-kind experience that really, if you're not in medicine and you don't go through residency, you're not going to get it as much as you want to. So enjoy your time, be excited, be eager, show energy, drink a lot of coffee, get your sleep, and you're going to do great. So thanks for joining, and thanks for tuning into my channel. Hope to see you back soon. Bye.
Hold me close till I get